Alaska, America's last frontier and greatest wilderness. Immense, unspoiled, awe-inspiring. Home to half the world's glaciers, America's highest mountains, and ice sheets that stretch to the North Pole. Inhabited by the world's largest land predators, herds of ancient beasts, and leviathans from the deep. The land is hostile, but its richness and diversity is unparalleled in the Northern Hemisphere. All must be resilient and adaptable if they're to survive a year in the wild of Alaska. Autumn is the season when Alaska's wildlife must make the final preparations before winter. Summer saw the groundwork done by the adults. Time is now running out for the youngsters. Days are growing short. Snow and freezing temperatures are imminent. Many young must soon start their lives alone. Those not prepared will perish. Nowhere is the struggle for survival more apparent than in the Katmai Wilderness area. Three million acres of wildness. Home to the highest density of brown bears in the world. They're here to gorge on the millions of salmon that are coming to the end of their epic migration. A journey that takes them back to the very same rivers where they were born. Having traveled thousands of miles to spawn, the final leg is by far the most dangerous. Brown bears need to build up a thick layer of fat for hibernation. The salmon are their salvation. Competition is fierce. But the salmon don't only attract bears. Katmai is also home to American wolves. This adult female finds a good spot. And starts to hunt. But the salmon are too quick for her. Then she gets company. A mother bear is also actively hunting the same stretch of river. Never stand in the way of a mother bear, especially one with 2 hungry cubs to feed. The wolf may also have young. She can't risk getting injured in a fight, so reluctantly gives up her spot. Back in the spring, these 2 cubs emerged from hibernation. They scraped by on a diet of clams and milk. If they're going to survive winter, they must start packing on the pans. Their mother replaces the wolf on the bank. One lunge, and she does what the wolf couldn't. The lump on the salmon's back identifies it as a male humpy, or pink. She quickly devours it without sharing and moves on, the cubs dragging along behind, leaving the wolf to pick up the scraps. She now wants to fish the prime spot at the river mouth. But it's taken by a 1,000-pound male, over 200 pounds heavier than her. Upstream, the river is deeper, making fishing near impossible. She must feed the cubs, so puts herself in danger. A growl and a charge. But he's not budging. Undeterred, she grabs a fish. Which draws in the big male. Fortunately, there's plenty of fatty salmon in the river to go round. But this won't be the case for long. She must reap the harvest while she can. Brown bears are not the only ones fishing here. Autumn sees the return of one of Alaska's most iconic migrants. These humpback whales spent the winter in their calving and mating grounds off Hawaii and the Gulf of Mexico. Following their 3,000-mile migration, they've arrived at their feeding grounds in the Gulf of Alaska. They've adapted their hunting technique especially for here. And they're hungry. They've not eaten for 6 months, so waste little time. They have a unique way of fishing, one not seen anywhere else in the world. Herring shoal here in their millions. For protection from seals and Steller sea lions. But this shoaling actually works against them now the humpbacks are here. Once the whales have their sights on a shoal, they dive. And start to sing, as loud as a jet aircraft. The sound panics the herring and drives them up towards the surface. One whale starts blowing bubbles, surrounding the herring. A vertical barrier as high as a 4-story house, which the herring won't swim through. The trap is set. The whales move in for the kill. Together, they devour thousands of fish at a time. At over 45 feet long and nearly 30 tons, they have quite an appetite. So quickly regroup to do it all over again. This North American coast is the only place in the world where humpbacks combine bubble netting with singing. They've learned that by engaging their feeding siren, they can turn these waters into the perfect place to hunt. "500 miles northwest of the whales, on the northern edge of the Gulf of Alaska, lies Prince William Sound. 3,500 miles of rugged coastline. Home to one of the highest concentrations of sea otters in the world. Here, because these nutrient-rich waters provide them with an endless supply of food, which is vital for their survival. As unlike most marine mammals, sea otters don't have an insulating blubber layer. Instead, they burn calories to keep warm. To do this, they must eat a quarter of their body weight every day, so regular feeding is essential. They can dive for 4 minutes at a time. Feeding on clams, snails, starfish, and sea urchins. But body heat alone is not enough to survive out here. So sea otters have the added protection of the thickest coat of any mammal. Up to 1 million hairs crammed into every square inch, compared to the average human that only has 100,000 hairs on their entire head. But looking after this coat takes time and effort. So when not foraging, they spend hours grooming. Drying their fur, removing salt and excess oil, fluffing it up traps air, providing 4 times as much insulation as the same thickness of fat. Essential, as it's the only thing that lies between them and the freezing cold Alaskan water. The next 6 months are the most difficult, especially for mothers with pups. Calm days will soon be replaced by storms, disrupting feeding, increasing the chance of separation and drowning. One in 5 sea otter pups won't see their first birthday. Starvation is the biggest killer. They must stick close to mum if they're to survive. As autumn advances, parental guidance is crucial. But for some, it lasts much longer than just one season. Over the past 3 months, this mum has kept her 2 cubs secreted away in the forest. Unlike brown bears, Black bear cubs don't rely on a diet of salmon for their survival. Mother's milk and vegetation is more than adequate. But Mum can't resist the lure of a salmon lunch. And it's the best way for her to get nutrition to produce milk. She leads them to the river for the first time. They're understandably cautious. Brown bears also fish here and pose a serious threat to the cubs. She expertly catches a fish. Then slinks back into the safety of the forest to feed. They'll spend the next 3 years by her side before heading out on their own. That breakup can be traumatic, with youngsters sometimes reluctant to leave. This 3-year-old cub, nestled in the rocks, waits expectantly to be fed. His mother rebuffs him. A clear sign it's time he started hunting for himself, as she can no longer catch enough fish to feed them both. He's not going to give up without a fight. His begging becomes more aggressive. But she stands her ground. Eventually, he gets the message, and the family breaks up. Mid-autumn, and in the Tongass National Forest, it's a very big day for one young bald eagle. He hatched in early June. Since then, his parents have worked tirelessly, and he's grown quickly. His fluffy white down turned grey. He grew flight feathers, and learned to feed himself. He was fully feathered in 56 days and almost as big as his parents. With age came a change in attitude. He no longer waits to be fed. And drives them off to fetch more. His parents continued to make food deliveries. But didn't hang about. Now he's starting to explore his environment, stretching his wings to strengthen his flight muscles. He's about to make his maiden flight. A huge leap of faith. The ground being 150 feet below. After a brief hesitation, he's off. He doesn't go far, returning to snatch food from his parents. Survival is instinctive. Good manners are not. Parental duties over, they leave, forcing the youngster to start looking after himself. Just as the first autumnal storm approaches from the Arctic. On the island of St. Lawrence, 40 miles off the Russian coast, three Arctic fox cubs play. They're only 12 weeks old. This den site has been their refuge since they were born, but not for much longer. They've already grown their thick adult coats and now resemble Mum and Dad. They're perfectly camouflaged amongst the rocks. At this age, life is simple. They pass the days play fighting. Which helps improve hunting techniques, strength and speed. The braver they become, the further they venture. The more adventurous of them, even attacking and killing fungi. All of which is vital, as their lives have reached a critical point. The nesting seabirds are starting to migrate. Their parents are no longer returning with food. a clear sign that it's time for them to start life alone. One by one, they drift away. And the den lies quiet until next year. It's not just on St. Lawrence that food is drying up. In the Katmai Wilderness area, the salmon run is starting to dwindle. Heaping pressure on this mum and her 3 yearling cubs. She watches as bears downstream catch the last of the salmon. But it's too dangerous for her to take her cubs into the melee, nor can she leave them alone on the beach. She's trapped upstream, while the others hold the best fishing spots. Her cubs are hungry. She must revert to Plan B. Low tide gives her access to mussel beds and razor clams. Slim pickings compared to the salmon the other bears are catching. But every morsel is vital if they're going to survive their first Alaskan winter. The sun tracks low across the autumn sky. Winter is fast approaching. North-facing mountain slopes won't feel the warmth of the sun's rays until spring. Shaded rivers are already coated in frost. In the Chugach National Forest, in Alaska's south, coho salmon have at last reached their spawning grounds. They haven't eaten since returning to the river and are now close to death. But they still have one final act before they die, and that is to breed. The females dig deep depressions in the gravel. Called a red, this will be the nest for her eggs. The males line up, waiting for the moment she lays. Then they'll rush in to fertilize them. They may only get one chance. So fights are frequent and violent. Even the largest males carry severe injuries. Half-starved, their bodies are in a state of collapse. Wounds fester, but still they battle to keep control of a female. Their attention elsewhere leaves them vulnerable to attack. At around 10 pounds, this chum salmon weighs roughly the same as the eagle. It's far too heavy to carry away, so he drags it into the shallows. But he's not alone. And stealing a meal is easier than catching one. As winter draws ever closer and food becomes scarce, tensions rise. But Alaska still has one last offering that throws a lifeline to eagles from across much of North America. Clear skies reveal the aurora borealis. Temperatures drop. Chilling both land and water. Soon, most of Alaska's rivers will freeze completely, locking away vital food under a thick layer of ice. But not here. The Chilkat River in southeastern Alaska is different. Upstream, water trapped underground is warmed. It slowly percolates up and seeps into the river, keeping a 5-mile stretch of the Chilkat free of ice. Even during the coldest winter. The warmer water means salmon can spawn here later. This attracts eagles from thousands of miles away for one final feast before winter hits. At 3,000 strong, this is the world's largest gathering of bald eagles. Such a glut of food means there is little reason to squabble. And a chilling calm descends. The salmon pay the ultimate price. They've done what they came all this way to do. Their cycle of life is now complete. Every year, 300 million returning salmon bring life to much of Alaska. Even in death, they fertilize the land along riverbanks, nourishing the vegetation, providing food for grazers that in turn feed predators. Nutrients from far out in the Pacific Ocean, creating life hundreds of miles inland. With winter closing in, Alaska's wildlife must steel itself ahead of 7 months of ice and snow. But it's these extreme conditions that have helped transform them into some of the most resolute creatures on the planet. So that when spring finally returns, they'll be ready to face another year in the wilds of Alaska.